why there can be only 5 for this week is sequels that surpassed the original. So these are movies that the sequel was better than the original. Maybe they're both classics, or maybe the second one is just by far better. I didn't really set any rules to it. There are some movies where I think the first and second ones are really close. And, and so I kind of left those off. Lord of the Rings was an example. Like, I think Two Towers is better than Fellowship, but we had this discussion last week. Like, that's their tens though, they're all tens.
Yeah.
I
did the same.
I got a couple on this list where the first one's a great movie and the second one is a great movie. I just feel like there is a substantial difference between the two. And that might just be my opinion, because I know a lot of people in these two instances I'm thinking about like the first movie better. So I'll go ahead and start. I didn't have any honorable mentions on this one. I had a pretty clear-cut number 5, or a clear-cut 5 that I knew I wanted to go with. So number 5, I put Top Gun Maverick as number 5 on my list.
Sequels just watched it the other day.
Again, sequels that are better than the original. Listen, the original Top Gun, cool movie, right? Like, it's 80s. It's a cool movie. Fighter jets, all that. Like, Tom Cruise is super young. He's not the megastar that he is today. And here it is. It's like 35 years later, and they make a sequel. And you're kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
And it's an amazing movie. The story is super. It's super cool. Listen, it's basically it's A New Hope in fighter jets. Like the whole plot line where they got to find like this duct. They got to shoot missiles into this air duct to blow up the base, kind of deal. Yeah. The story is really cool. Basically, Goose dies in the original, and his son's like part of this group. They bring in like the best of the best fighters for the secret mission, and they have Maverick like training them, and like Goose's son's in there, and there's this animosity about that, and then this backstory like Tom Cruise didn't tell him everything. Anyway, he basically didn't want Goose's kid to get into danger and get killed too. He wanted to keep him safe, so he kind of made it so he couldn't get promoted and do these missions and things. But the story's great. The acting's great. Like, all the fighter pilots are awesome. I like the story.
Like, the effects is all real.
It's all great. Yeah. Tom Cruise, listen, he was like in the 80s, he's this star. In the 90s, he's this star. It just seems like since this guy's turned like 50 years old, now he's like a superstar. Like, he's making these insane, great quality action movies. I think Top Gun Maverick was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Rightfully so. It's a fantastic movie. It's number 5 on my list. Number 4, and this is one of the ones where I think some people, there's a lot of people out there that think the original's better, but I think the second one is by far better, and that's Aliens.
Oh yeah,
so
saw that on a couple lists.
The original Alien, Ridley Scott movie, obviously space horror, is made in the 70s. It's a classic space horror movie. It's a great movie. Alien's a great movie. So James Cameron gets brought in to make the sequel, which is Aliens, and it's a different genre. It's no longer a horror movie. It's a space marine action movie with horror elements, and it's freaking awesome.
Awesome.
Aliens is one of my favorite 80s action movies, if not my favorite. Like, it's a great movie. And listen, Sigourney Weaver, I don't think gets the credit that she deserves for that franchise, because she's such a badass. Yeah. And she did such a great job. And I know there's fall off after the first two. I, for one, thought the third one was actually a good movie. I know there was a lot of issues with it.
I like the third one too.
Yeah. And then even Alien Resurrection was okay. I mean, it's the weakest of the 4.
Third one is the prison planet one.
Yeah. And that was a David Fincher movie. Yeah.
I like Resurrection better than I like 3.
Do you?
I actually liked Resurrection.
So. I don't think any of them are bad. I thought all 4 of them were good movies. I just think 2 is it's for sure. That's an amazing movie.
It's game over, man.
Yeah. Bill Paxton's the only person that's been killed by a predator, a Terminator, and an alien.
Yeah. R.I.P. By the way.
R.I.P. Bill Paxton. So that's my number 4. Number 3,
and a tornado, right? Did he die? No, he didn't.
Oh, he lived. He lived in Twister. Number 3, I did have Empire Strikes Back on my list.
I knew it.
I put it at number
I
3. I was
know.
going to leave it off because I think it's so obvious, but at the same time,
That's exactly what I did. I left
it's
it
the same.
off because we've talked about it.
The same time, I just feel like Empire Strikes Back had to be on there because I think it surpasses. It's the
It's
greatest
almost
Star
kind of
Wars
like
movie. It surpassed the first one. It's great.
we've
We've talked.
literally talked
We've talked about
about how
Empire multiple
it's,
times. Yeah.
yes. Well, I meant like we've talked about it as being like the greatest sequel ever. Like,
Yeah.
so we've
Well,
already
yeah.
kind of talked about it like that. So it's not,
Yeah.
I agree with it being on your list.
Yeah. Number 2, and I went with The Dark Knight at number 2. I had The Dark Knight at number 2. I think Batman Begins is awesome. I think it's a great origin story for Batman.
Yeah.
I loved that movie when it came out. I didn't think there was any way in hell they were going to make a better movie than that. And boy, did they. Like we've talked about The Dark Knight before as the movie that basically expanded the Best Picture nominee list at the Oscars because it was left off that list and it deserved to be nominated, if not win. It's a listen, it's like it's got all these huge action set pieces. It's great. Like Christian Bale's a great Batman. Heath Ledger's Joker is one of the best portrayals of a villain, like acting wise. He is amazing in that role. The movie's great. It's got a great detective story around it. Like it's got a great plot and storyline. I love it. I think it's a great movie. It's definitely better than the first one, so it's one of the greatest sequels of all time.
I agree.
Number 1. So my movie that I think surpassed the sequel, or the sequel surpassed the original, even though this is one of the originals where the original is considered a classic. It's Terminator 2.
I knew you were going to say that. I
Terminator
was about to
2.
go. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I think, is the greatest sequel that's ever been made.
What a movie.
It's so amazing. The special effects are amazing. Like Arnold was such an iconic villain in the first Terminator, like the T-800, he's such a just stone cold killing machine, and they flip it and they make him a good guy, and that's awesome. He's great. Linda Hamilton's amazing in that movie. The action pieces are great. Robert Patrick's great as the villain. I wish his career would have been better because he does such a good job of he does a great job of playing a machine. So maybe that's why. But the special effects, like it holds up. Like if you watch that movie today, it's like Jurassic Park. Like the special effects hold up for being early 90s. It's amazing. James Cameron obviously is one of the greatest writer, directors, producers there is, and he's on this list twice. And Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I think, is the best sequel.
It's a great movie. The soundtrack, the ending where he's going into the lava and he slowly turns into thumbs up. Like, what a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
I like your list. I think we had 2 that are similar.
Okay.
I left Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. I've got it listed as an honorable mention, but I mean, it is one of, if not the greatest sequel ever. But we've talked about it many times, and I just didn't feel like it was necessary to throw on the list. And it was part of a trilogy, part of a larger kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I guess some of mine on here. I don't know. I feel like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, like we've talked about them. I had moved them out of my top 5. Even
I know.
I
feel like leaving 2. I don't know. I feel like Empire. I don't know. I don't want to say like it's leaps and bounds better than A New Hope because I know it's not. But
most people,
I felt like it had to be on there. Yeah, I felt.
Yeah.
Well, I think we had this discussion last week where it was like we all know Empire's the greatest Star Wars, but I think with like Lord of the Rings, like somebody might have a different answer. You know what I mean? When you ask them what their favorite one is.
My other honorable mention was Spider-Man 2. I thought Spider-Man 2 was better than the first by a lot. But it wasn't my top 5. My top 5, I guess I should say my top 6 because my number 5 is tied for 2. I went back and forth on both of them, and I was like,
it's your list. You do what you want.
I'm going to fucking do whatever the fuck I want. So tied at number 5, I have Captain America Winter Soldier. So much better than the first one. The first movie was like just kind of boring and goofy, and then Captain America Winter Soldier came out, and I was like, I fucking love Captain America. I'm not even a Captain America fan.
I love the first Captain America. I think it's like the origin. I love that movie. I don't know why, because I know a lot of people don't, but I don't know why I do. But yeah, Winter Soldier is a better movie, no doubt.
The only reason I really like the first one because it's feels like the most classic Captain
Mhm.
America because like
Yes.
Red Skull is the bad guy in it. You obviously remember me talking about the really old
Yeah.
Captain America movie that's super shitty. But basically, the new first Captain America is like a better remake of that old
Okay.
original because it's the same. It's literally the same story. Anyways, I liked Captain America: Winter Soldier. I had it tied with Toy Story 2.
Oh, that's a
Uh,
good one. Yeah.
Toy Story 2. I mean, we all love the first movie. It's
Mhm.
great. I could never get over that Woody was like the bad. Like, I hated that this whole movie, Woody was like, all of the toys hated him. Like, he did something wrong when he didn't do, he almost did something wrong, but it
Mhm.
wasn't his fault. So I liked that Toy Story 2 was way cooler, way more fun, way more like Woody is a badass. They went from him being like this goofy guy that everyone's mad at the whole first movie to like, he's like an idol in different countries or
Mhm.
a super popular toy that nobody knew. So those were tied for 5. Here we go. We're diving in. My number 4, Batman Returns. Whew, what a movie.
Wow.
Batman Returns, I had above. I love Batman
Mhm.
89, which I had been blowing you up the last week or so because I
Mhm.
just rewatched it and I fucking love Batman 89. But nothing will ever be better than Batman Returns in that kind of Batman series and world to me. I just the movie it just felt so much better. I loved that they dove even more so into like the darker, gritty gothic vibe. Catwoman, meow. That whole movie. The Penguin was just incredible. Michael Keaton
What
really dove into his Batman.
Tim
What about you?
Burton hit a freaking home run with the way he cast that movie. Michelle Pfeiffer was perfect as Catwoman. Danny DeVito was perfection as the Penguin because he made him creepy
Creepy
and
as hell.
I
Scary.
Danny DeVito, like, holy cow, like that, like build a statue, put him up. His
Yes.
portrayal of the Penguin was
Yes.
fantastic. Even man, he gets kind of left behind, but Christopher Walken in that movie,
Dude,
yeah,
yes. The the whole cast just like you said, it's perfect. I actually love the like winter Christmas setting of
yes,
Gotham. Which might also play a role in why it's like one of my favorite Batman movies because like I'm a Christmas nerd. Like
Mhm.
when we get to Christmas season, all this background stuff is gonna be Christmased out. I love the scenery and the vibe that that
Mhm.
movie is set in. One of my favorite Batman video games is Batman Origins, and it's set in snowy Christmas Gotham. So, anyways, Batman Returns somehow was better than the original. Did not see how that was going to happen, but it did. And honestly, that when we were doing this list, I went back and forth of like, am I doing a list of better than the original or sequels that made the original better? Like it felt like it was kind of felt like the same thing. Um, but, but for my number 3, which this kind of plays a role in this, I also had Batman: The Dark Knight. I loved Batman Begins. It was an awesome origin movie. It very much, if you're a Batman comic book fan, like they hit did they did so much right about his origin with characters in that movie. They pulled a ton of stuff from Batman year one in the Batman Begins movie. And so I didn't think they could do it, but man, it felt like The Dark Knight was just like it was a whole nother level. Like the first movie was great, but this felt like an epic. This like when you saw this in theater, like the score in this movie, it had you like on edge. anytime the Joker was in the room or in a scene, like you felt like he could stab you in the face at any moment. When he makes the pencil disappear with the magic trick, you're like, holy shit. When he snaps the pool stick and he's like, tryouts.
Yeah.
Like that was just like, this is fucking crazy.
Yep.
He makes that movie. Christian Bale is an awesome Batman, but very much they really hit the Joker, Batman playing off each other vibes in that. Only kind of downfall of that movie is Rachel Dawes, like Gyllenhaal. You're horrible.
Well, I like her better than Katie Holmes. I don't like Katie Holmes though.
See, I like Katie Holmes. I don't like when movies do that. I don't recast what we talk about. The Mummy 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can't recast the person we already know. It breaks the immersion. Anyways, The Dark Knight, fucking awesome. Way better than the original. Not that the original was bad, but way better. We got better rogues galleries. Dope movie. My number 2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. What a fucking movie. This movie, as a kid, this was like in our top 10 of rotated movies that we watched all the time. I loved it. The opening scene where they're in the post-apocalyptic timeline and they're having the war, the battle, like that 5 to 10 minute scene, like set up like hundreds of toy playing sessions with my guys. Like I'm just doing the exact same thing when I was a kid. When they announced that they were doing the Christian Bale reboot or kind of futuristic Terminator movie with him as John Connor in that post-apocalyptic war, I was so stoked because all I thought it was going to be was pretty much that first opening scene from Terminator 2. So great movie. The score and the music in that movie was incredible. Like that Guns N' Roses playing when dude's riding his dirt bike, getting chased by a freaking semi truck. He jumps into the water duct way, thinks he's getting away and turns, and this freaking semi truck kind of jumps off of the bridge. What an incredible scene. And then you got freaking badass Stallone riding his fucking Harley, chasing him.
Schwarzenegger.
What did I say? Stallone?
Yeah, this isn't Last Action Hero.
Sorry, you guys know what I meant. We've been talking so much about Stallone that they're all blending together. Schwarzenegger, obviously, I know Arnold is Terminator. Anyways, Arnold's fucking riding his Harley, chasing. He's got the shotgun without a shoulder butt, so he's like spinning it around to reload it. Even the opening scene where he like comes from the future into the past, and he goes into the biker bar to like take his fucking clothes.
Oh man,
when he flicks the sunglasses and Bad to the Bone starts playing, like
they're
badass.
There's so many awesome scenes in that movie. Like so many.
So, like him with the freaking minigun where he kicks the office building. Like how great did James Cameron do with like the setting, like all the different settings? Because let's take an office building and turn it into this badass SWAT team battle between the SWAT team and when he's freaking hitting dudes with the smoke grenades, like in the back,
and like blowing them back.
Yes, killing people.
You know what scene? Like, and this is kind of weird, but the scene that I think is like the most emotionally charged, and I know there's the scene between like John Connor and Arnold where he's like trying to make him more human, and they talk about like, are people going to make it and stuff. The scene where Linda Hamilton goes to kill Dyson, like the guy that works at Skynet, right? The guy that designs the Terminator. When she goes to kill him,
Miles Dyson. She's gonna blow him away.
When she goes to kill him and they show up and they stop her. And that whole scene where like Arnold cuts his arm off and peels the skin off.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Oh man.
Knifes his hand.
And like Dyson's there shot and he's bleeding and his wife's holding it and they're terrified and they see this arm and he realizes immediately what's going on. And he's like, holy shit.
Stop. what I've
That like I've
created.
got like goosebumps just talking about that scene because for some reason, like when they tell him basically he's going to end the world, like you're the one that's going to kill everybody, and
Yeah.
he's like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like that whole like it's I love it. That movie's so great.
I can hear the sound of him like when his breath is going out and he lets go of the thing and it ka-chink, it
Yep.
blows up. Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I can hold
Yeah.
onto
I
this.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. What a just so many cool sets. The
Yeah.
whole movie from start to finish
Yeah.
is cool. When Arnold breaks her out of the insane asylum,
Oh
like
yeah.
super dope. When they're in the mall and he's when he drops the box of roses and it's a shotgun, he starts
Mhm.
blowing away the
It's
T-1000.
an
Like
amazing movie.
I just want to watch that movie now.
I do
So
too.
that's my
So I'm just
number
thinking
two.
that.
Uh, what a great movie, all-time classic.
Yeah.
Number one, you hate this movie. I will fucking talk about this movie any chance the door is open. I'm going to step in. I'm going to throw the ball up and I'm going to smack it over the fence. Blade Runner 2049. This movie. Get out of here. Yeah, leave. I don't care. Leave. I'll talk about this movie. You did not give this movie the time and attention that it deserved. You got bored right away. You didn't know anything about the first one, and then you didn't watch it.
What do you mean I didn't know anything about the first one? I've seen like all 18 cuts of it.
This movie made the first movie so much better.
I don't disagree with that.
It took so many things from the first movie of like, is Harrison Ford a replicant? What happened with it? Was he or was he not? What happened with him and his girlfriend who was a replicant? Like, it's Ryan Gosling. This is the best movie he's ever done. This is by far his best movie as the main character. And I truly think you should go and watch this one more time where you actually pay attention
I watched the entire movie.
because the cinematography in
Yes.
this movie is insane. The score is incredible. The entire start to finish background music, the whole thing is awesome. There's a lot of there's a lot of kind of deep moments of internal thought that they do a
Mhm.
great job of setting it with kind of the scene of without having to say the things that you're thinking. You know, he's going through thinking that he's just like, I'm a replicant. I hunt down other replicants. And then they're slowly starting to pull this thread to make him think like, are you a replicant though,
Right.
or were you the first baby ever born from a replicant? Like, does that make you a machine, or does that make you like another human, or not a human,
Yeah.
but a living person? Like the whole movie, Ryan Gosling is like fighting his like internal code of what he is and what he'll ever be, and is just like constantly questioning himself, thinking that he's going to end up. They basically set it up to where he thinks for most of the movie that he is this child that's been hidden from the world, and it literally ruins, it shatters his whole world. But then he starts to realize that it's real. There's a scene in it where um basically there's people that have special abilities
Mhm.
to create memories. Like they basically make a movie. They can make a memory to implant in to like replicants heads, and I think humans as well. But basically, like, so you can create a memory so you can put it in a replicant and they literally feel like that's something that actually happened. And so he goes to her and he shows her this scene of a memory of his from his childhood to basically find out like, this is something from my childhood. I've always like, it's been a memory of mine that I've always had, but I know it's a fake dream. It's not real. It didn't really happen. And he goes and talks to this lady who is like a dream builder, and she watches it and tells him that it's real. And then like in that moment, he realizes like, oh my God, I am the child. Like He's sitting there. It's quiet. She's like crying. You find out later that she's crying because it's her memory because she was the child, but they don't disclose that till the very end of the movie. But like at the moment, like she's super upset because in the scene, the kid is he's like trying to hide this little toy horse that all his friends are trying to steal from him, and like it's in an orphanage. He gets his ass beat. So it's like super traumatic for her because she's had that memory too. But so like she's kind of having a tear. But and when he hears that it's real, that's like basically settles in that he is the prodigal child.
Right.
And he like lets out this scream of like yelling of like, no, no, like freaking out. And it's one of the best movie scenes I've ever seen. Like it's super powerful. It just does a great job. And then the ending of the movie, like when he realizes that he's not actually the child, he's, even though he realizes he's not the one, it's the journey has changed him fundamentally to understand that what he has been doing is not the way, and that this child is like should be protected at all costs. And he like goes back and obviously kind of saves the day, but he just slowly goes back while it's snowing as he's dying and just lays back in the snow on these stairs as he slowly dies. And it's such a powerful movie. I love it. My friends I try to make all of them watch it. They all think it's hella boring, but man, it's so good. It's so good.
Listen, the original Blade Runner I saw a long time ago, and I bought it. I own it. Listen, it's this classic like 80s or late, I think it's early 80s sci-fi movie. When it came out, it wasn't viewed great, right? And over time, as people watched it, they realized it's like this science fiction masterpiece. Dennis Villeneuve makes a very specific kind of movie, right? He's very slow burn. He's very like it's all very purposeful. It's very emotional. Like you said, cinematography is amazing. I go back to, I think probably his greatest movie is Arrival, and like everything he's done, and like they all very similar tone. Even Dune has a very similar tone to Blade Runner.
Exactly. Dune and
they have very
Blade
similar
Runner
tones.
like almost the same.
I understand completely why you love this movie. Okay, I'm not. I just didn't love it like you do, and I know as somebody that is really into movies like I am,
breaks my heart
when it's like when you're like, I love this movie so much, I want you to see this movie. I hope you love it. I hope you love it. And somebody says, yeah, it was okay, and you're like crushed.
That's literally what you're doing right now. It's we've already
done that. I've already said that. This is years ago. Listen, I'm not going to yuck your yum, man. Like,
don't yuck my yum.
Not gonna. You like that movie? It's not a bad movie whatsoever. It's a great movie. Like you said, there's a lot of great things to it. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. You don't have to feel like you're hurting my feelings, so you have to say the things that make me feel better.
But I know
I'm not crying. I'm just tired. It's like
no, but I know what it's like. Like if there's something like I have a list of like the movies that I like the most, like what I think are the greatest movies of all time. And if I found out that you hadn't seen one or two of them, and I'm like, you got to like, this is one of my greatest favorite movies of all time, and you saw it, and I can think of a couple off the top of my head, and like you saw it, and you're like, yeah, I just didn't like it. I'd have been okay.
Yeah, like we're not doing a podcast about movies together anymore.
I get it. No, I love it. I like that you like that movie. That's awesome.
Gives me an idea for. Like,
is it better movies than the original? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it is absolutely. Yes. Listen, you know what? I had an honorable mention for this list that I completely forgot, and that was Superman 2.
Oh yeah, I saw that on a lot of lists too. I
wanted to put it on there, and I completely forgot that I had it as an honorable mention. But come, Son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod.
It is so much better than the first one.
Yes.
The first one was not a bad movie, but
no, not at all. Especially for when it came out.
But the second one, fucking it's a good movie. Cool. Yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I saw that on a lot of lists when we were looking at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, great list, man. I liked your list. You liked my list. They're great movies there's no bad movies on that list. Are they all better than the original? Yeah, they are. They're all better than the original.
Yeah.
There's people out there that think the first Terminator is better than T2, and I think they're nuts. But
what?
yeah,
How
there's
is
some
that
people out there.
possible?
It's it was more story and character driven. Whatever, get out of town. The
What? The
second one, it's one of
second
the.
one was infinitely more
It
story
might
and
be
character
the
driven.
greatest science action kind of. That and Aliens. They're both on there.
Yes.
They're the
Terminator
best.
2 is just there's so much underlying stuff with that movie that's like, fatherhood, looking for a father figure, like it can
Yep.
be in anyone and anything. Like there's just what a fucking cool ass movie.
Yep, absolutely. Listen, that brings us to the end of the episode. It was